This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Sarah couldn't make it today, so I am co-hosting.
You're the host with the most.
I'm the host. So, got an agenda. We got an agenda. We call the meeting to order here, and that leads us, of course, to the next item of business, which is chair's comment. I will dispense of any comment to this point in time and move to the public comment. I do not believe I see a member of the public present, but if there is a member of the public present who has a comment and wants to address the committee, this is their opportunity. Do I hear that?
Hi, I'm Frank. I'd like to file an official complaint against the rain. I don't want to absorb it. We send it away, please.
I second the motion.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to our minutes. The minutes were forwarded out with a notice of the meeting. Did anyone have an opportunity to review them? And if so, I will accept a motion to adopt the minutes with or without amendments if amendments are required. So I guess the first question is, has anyone detected a necessity for any modifications to the minutes? And if not, then I would ask for a motion to adopt.
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes.
Second.
Frank and Ted. Okay. Okay, great. There's been a motion and a second for adoption of the minutes. All in favor of that indicate by saying yay, because we have some folks on phone.
Yay.
Yay. Count of the yeas and nays. Okay, any opposed? None opposed. Minutes are adopted unanimously. Surprise. This brings us now to our treasurer's report and our treasurer test stock.
Okay, you'll see a revised method or format so that there's no confusion about when the report or what period of time the report covers. I'll just do them. I can't write up the report till after the end of the month. I know that we try to get them in a week ahead of time. Sometimes it's not possible, but I will report as of the end of each month and just call it a statement of financial position. Therefore, everybody knows exactly the period of time we're talking about or the end of the period of time. So otherwise, it's basically the same information. I did add one column to this, which is pending expense. Sometimes we have some expenses and bills or receipts that have been submitted, but they are in the pipeline, and I actually don't put it down as an expense until I get the information back from the city that the bill has been paid. So right now there are no outstanding things in the pipeline. So what you see is what we've got.
Ready for questions, Ted, or you got more to say?
No, that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Mark's got one.
Oh, yeah. I love financial reports. First of all, the balance that we currently have in the bank, is that the figure at the top right, 1,680? Is that correct?
Which one are you referring to again?
The third fund, the money that we still have in our coffers. Is that that's my understanding?
Yeah. I changed it to unallocated to just reserve fund. That's
Right.
what we basically have. So,
And the money that we've spent year to date for this year is at the bottom there, the 1,260. Is that 280?
No,
Is that
no,
right?
there is nothing that indicates what we have spent year to date. That is just the total amount that is available from our purchase orders.
Can we get that information, what's been spent year to date? I think that would be a good.
I will have to do a separate report for that. If you, I plan on doing that toward the end of the year to show exactly what we've spent for the year and from what funds.
Yeah,
And
maybe,
for expenses.
maybe you and I can get together next week and talk more about that. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's fine. I think I gave you the last time we met at the co-op. I gave you some possible reports that I could set up in terms of
Yeah, I think,
the expenditures. This is just the same old thing, which basically tells us where we are currently, what we spent in the last period of time, and what we currently have available.
yeah, I think you and I can talk more about that, but I think in my experience, usually financial reports are best if we have a statement of income and versus actual expenses for the past month and year to date. So maybe we can figure out how to convey that information. I think it would be good for the committee to know about that. And that's all I have.
Okay.
And we still have plenty of money. In other words, the 1,680. That's a good little war chest, right?
That's
Yeah,
the
plus
bottom.
plus the 1,260 still in our funds. We have currently we have 2941.48
So the 12,
Right, because there's
available
encumbrances.
to expend.
is the 1,260 likely to be spent within this garden year? Or do you have any idea?
The stuff for Flory will.
The stuff from Flory, I don't know. It's just
Well, I'm talking about the
my
lawnmower.
estimate would be that's probably no more than about $125, $130 maybe. And Frank, unless you can think of any expenses with the repairs on the machinery, the outdoor power equipment.
Yeah, the lawnmower I'll take it in for its tune up basically at the end of the season. I'm doing it differently.
Okay.
How much is that usually, Frank?
About 120, 110.
Bad at all.
Nothing crazy.
So it feels like we're going to have a good chunk of that 1,260 left over, but maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there's.
Well, we got Broadbrook. They got to come, and
Broadbrook I think was 150.
yeah.
But those are all items that would have been previously allocated.
Mm-hmm.
Like Easthampton feed and Flory lumber, power equipment, tractor supply. That's already happened.
Yeah, I think it'll be important. I'm going to try to put together something that will show our expenditures and maybe go back and look at past year's expenses prior to this year, just to get an idea of about how much we tend to spend.
Right.
And do a little bit of comparison. It looks like we'll have about maybe $2,400
Mm-hmm.
The end of the garden year.
by the end of the year that's available on top of and 270 some odd dollars in or probably a little less than I get Frank's receipts for gas.
Yeah, $10. And I'm probably gonna need to get some oil too
Okay,
for the
all
mower,
right.
but that lasts forever.
From the petty cash, because that's in addition
Yeah, right.
to the 2941 that's there right now. So
So if then we can calculate if there's any capital expenditures we anticipate for the upcoming year and what, how it's going to play into what we charge for garden fees for next year. If that's going to be a problem.
yeah, we can look at
Excellent.
that.
Yep. Yeah.
We had some big expenses this year, raised beds, parking lot, and the, why am I forgetting? Karen, Karen's raised beds, and also the hoses.
Right.
So those are expenses. We didn't have expenses like that really last year
Correct.
that I can recall. So,
Splendid. Thanks, Ted.
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Ted. Is there a motion to adopt the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Mark moves it.
I second that.
Frank seconds. All in favor of adoption indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Hey,
Yay.
Opposed or abstentions? Any? None being heard. The treasurer's report is adopted also unanimously. That brings us to operations and Frank.
My connection keeps almost dropping, so I have to get off and get on. So if I pause, if I have a weird pause, it's because I am dealing with my network here. So the mowing has been tough, simply because it won't stop raining long enough for us to mow. So I did get some mowing done, and then Ryan McChesney emailed me a couple days ago, and he did some mowing up on the top side. So that's just going to be like an ongoing thing whenever it stops raining, and it's going to start again. I think tomorrow afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, it's Saturday. So, and then I'm probably going to do a weed inspection, and my plot will fail simply because I can't weed because it's too wet, and I've been easy on people because of that very reason. But I just want to make sure, and Margie, maybe we can check and see. I just want to make sure some people have not just left, and I'm curious to know who's going to come back, because there's a couple of plots that seem like they're just abandoned.
So if you want to send me the plot numbers, I can send an email to those people.
Yeah, I'll go up there and do another. I'll do an inspection tomorrow. I mean, I know there's people who are still working stuff. It's just, it's really hard to weed right now, just because you're pulling up half of the dirt in your garden. Then we'll need to, we're going to need to set a date, like the shut everything down date, clean up date, all that kind of thing. And we can do that by the end of the evening, but we'll need to do that, and probably be good to send an email out to tell people to put it on their calendar. I would think it'd be like the third. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Does Frank seem to be
He's frozen.
Yeah.
frozen?
Well, that's what's
Warm
going
up,
on.
Frank. He'll be back.
He'll be back.
They always.
Okay.
All right.
You're back.
So
So we have the closing date is coming up later in the meeting, so we can move past that.
good. And I don't have much more than that, because a lot of the stuff that to do with the garden is going to have to do with the day we close things down, just in terms of a list of things. If anybody has any questions.
I do.
Yeah.
So we have all this, I don't know if I should ask you about this, community service and weeds and all that. What do we do if people don't step up? If people just don't weed or don't do any community service? Do we have a policy in place? I don't know if that's operations. I had
That's
emailed.
not operations.
Nothing to do with me.
Deb doesn't want to deal with that. We had already communicated. So who deals with that?
I
Well,
mean, I don't know if we've.
We don't.
I mean, I need to put my wife on there because she's been out of the country off and on, so I've been mowing for her, so I need to put her name on there as they're doing her work. So,
But even people who don't weed, I mean, we don't just kick people out if they're not weeding, but we seem to not have any consequences.
well, I mean, there's people if they don't weed, they like if they don't respond and they don't do it, then we take the plot away.
Yeah, but since I've been here, we've done that to one person.
Right.
Springfield on October 28th. And children win a VIP meet and greet over the free Western Mass News app and tap meet and greet sweepstakes.
someone-
No purchase necessary. Complete
Someone's got
Western
a
Mass
radio
News
or TV on.
contests. Western Mass News It's streaming news and demands.
I'm practically prepared. Who's that?
The person who just joined the meeting.
Download the Western Mass News app for all your devices today.
Trying to mute her.
Hello, the person who's just joined the meeting.
Who is that?
Okay, keep on going.
That's better.
I don't know. Okay. That's interesting. It's like a ghost.
Here we go.
Thank
So
Okay, I think she's.
yeah, so Margie, like in terms of the weeds right now, it really has just been, it's been so wet. I think it's really almost impossible to weed.
Well, I don't.
But I hear what you're saying too.
I don't agree because there's some people who haven't weeded practically since the beginning of the summer. Right next to you and me, where my son's plot is, I think it's D7. My kids came out Mother's Day and they did a lot of work towards my son's community service, and we weeded some of those beds, and they haven't been weeded since.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's some people that are just gone. That's what I want to. So like I said, I'll get the plots, and then we'll just find out if they're really even active at all, because I feel like there's a couple of people who are just gone. And I've had in the last time when I did a weed inspection, and some people have actually they've been working on their plots. But yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Well, let's put together that listing, and that'll be a useful thing. I think, Margie, it will help inform our discussion about what the policy should be when we have a real firm handle about how many plots we're talking about, who they are, have they been reached, etc.
And who enforces it? That seems
Yes.
like a major concern, if anybody.
What was that, Mark? What's a major concern?
Enforcement, just what
yeah.
you brought up. Who's gonna be the hammer? Who's gonna decide, well, you haven't done this, so you're out for next year.
Well, Frank's been doing that, but not to the point of being out. That's a group decision. That's not an individual decision by the hammerer. That's a policy decision. But anything else, Frank, to your report?
No, but I think I don't think it's a bad idea actually for us to maybe, and I'll try and write something up, before our next meeting where we have a policy, but to really spell it out and by the amount of days you have to get things weeded or whatever. Because we've always said, look, your plot, I've always said your plot's failed. And if you need help with this or whatever, just let us know. and usually I'll get a response. But I just feel like just from my observation over the years, I just feel like there's a couple of plots where they just might be gone.
Yeah.
And
that happens every year.
it does. Usually
And
they're often nice enough to tell us they're leaving, but I don't know if that's the case this time.
also, I keep putting out that if people help other people who need help, they can get community service credit. So I think we should include that also. It
Yeah.
might be motivating.
Yep, I think it's a good idea, Margie. But that's all I have for now.
As always, thank you so much, Frank, for your great work. And yeah, we're at rainy season and we're down toward the end, and yeah, things get abandoned, unfortunately. Okay, that brings us to you, Margie.
Me, Margie. Hi.
You, Margie, in outreach,
Yep.
internal.
It's been somewhat quiet. There's actually 2 people on the waiting list and 1.5 open plots. One of them is Alyssa's, who sent a group email letting us know she's leaving. And the other half is, Ted, isn't that no, that's not the other half. I forget whose other half that was. Because Norman's in your other half, right, Ted?
Correct.
And Deb and Susan, I forget whose other half it is, but there's a half open, and neither of the people on the waiting list wanted an immediate half. They prefer to wait until next season to see if there's a whole plot available. And I haven't gotten any other requests. I've hardly gotten any emails from anybody. It's been happily very quiet. But I know that will change. Yeah, few people send me, please send this message, please send that message. So, Frank, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Margie, I think if we get a hold of these people, who's I feel like may be gone, we could do again what we've done in the past, and the people on the waiting list, if they're whole plots, we can just say, hey,
Yeah.
you can have a plot right now, come in and clean it up. Maybe if there's any way we can help clean it up with you, we will. But and then they can go ahead and get started on their plot this year for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. You keep going.
I don't really have more to say. There is something on the agenda about when do we talk about the jumping worms? Wait till everybody's finished their reports? That's a question.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, and also I'd like to talk about community service. Why do we have community service requirements if they don't get enforced? And who's going to do that? So we can, I'm happy to wait, but that's really all I have right now.
Okie dokie. External outreach, and Eric?
Yep. I haven't really done too much this month. I did find a source. A friend has a bunch of cardboard. Do we need cardboard this time of year, or would it just sit in the shed and be unused?
It would eventually get used.
Yeah, but if we're packing up the shed like in a month, we don't want that space to be taken up by cardboard.
That's true.
I think and if there's any, this is Christine. Hi, if there's any extra cardboard, it can be just dumped on the thistle plot with more wood chips on it.
Okay.
If you're
that would imply also
concerned
that
about,
what would be doing the time to do the wood chips.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you can never have too much cardboard.
Okay. All right.
So
I'll check to see if it's
I wouldn't
available.
worry about that. Yeah, the
Okay.
other thing too, I was up there tonight, the wood chip pile is really low. And I know that we do paths, basically until it starts snowing. And I don't know who delivers them or who asks for them or what, but it's definitely not enough. And it's
I have
very,
done it. I have done it. And I can call again. Laura had given me the numbers. It's tied. That's tied in with the jumping worms too. But I don't think there's a way around it. So let's talk about it when everyone's finished.
Okay.
okay, but
and
are we gonna do? We should.
Go ahead.
What I'm wondering is, are we gonna have wood chips or not?
That's what we have to. That's what I would like to talk about. I don't think we've discussed
Okay.
the jumping worms.
Okay. So last bit from me, from pathing committee. I noticed that the path between, let's see, is it 2C and 3C, which I think is Sarah's plot, the path that goes straight through from the main path, the one that's next to the picnic table, looks like that's gotten kind of overgrown. So that would be like the one that's wood chipped over. So that path isn't as demarked as well as it should be. I know that we were talking about getting the paths remeasured, and I would lay down the path and put down the path, put down the paper, and re-wood chip it. But I don't want to put it over anybody's plans. So just put a note. Anyone, I guess putting it in the minutes is enough. That we should reset that path and make sure that that's clear where that path is supposed to be.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. There is reference on the agenda to a path maintenance report. I don't know.
I guess I jumped the gun then.
Well, no, I'm glad you did it because you're right in order.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to add anything to what Eric mentioned about path maintenance?
I have a question.
Sure.
Eric, so you said put out, are we putting it out to the community about the path between C2 and C3? Is C2 a thistle? Is someone in C2? Is that one of the
C2 is one of the thistle ones. And so the plants that would be overgrowing where the plot would be, I think that there's some of Sarah's plants.
Yeah,
so, I mean, this is probably something that we should just take with her.
So just let Sarah know. I can email Sarah.
Yeah, well, probably, it doesn't need to get done right away. We can probably wait until the end of season. I don't want to overstep if the paths are not properly measured. I have to double check to see whether or not there's still a pole there. If not, I can get a measuring tape and figure out where it's supposed to be.
Okay, so if you want me to do that, I'll wait till I hear from you. Is that okay? Okay.
That's fine.
Well, I will report that the path that runs between A10 and B10 and A11 and B11 has never been better. So I kind of done my area, but then someone completed the entire path and it looks great.
Yeah, well, I mowed it when it was about a month ago. I went back and mowed all the paths that I could, and that was an experience. So, but you're saying there's chips there now?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's
I think I got most of the upper ones. I didn't do any of the lower ones.
Yeah. That's probably why we're low on chips, but they've been well deployed. Donation garden, I don't know if I was just checking to see if there had been, well, I don't know if anyone has a donation garden report. I haven't seen one mailed in either.
I believe it was wasn't it Nina who was taking that over? Nina Gordon Hirsch. I'm not 100% sure, but I seem to remember that, and I was in touch with her for strawberries. I can put an email out and ask if anybody has or
Yeah.
wants to take over the donation plot.
Yeah, there's nothing been done there. I walked by occasionally and I thought somebody, Caitlin Carmody, was she going to pick up some stuff for donations? But they didn't get harvested, so there's a bunch of kale that got eaten up there. So I don't know. It's not been tended, and that'll be an issue going forward for next year.
Yeah, to say the least. But we've had folks hopping around on it, so it's been a little problematic.
Yeah,
Larger discussions needed. But I think that last meeting or two, there's been someone has come. I'm looking at the minutes. Wasn't there someone who reported on the donation card?
Yeah. Yeah, 2 gardens ago, good idea to look at the notes. Nina had offered to do it if someone else would do it with her. And I don't know what happened about that.
didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
No, it's not been tended. It's just overgrown, and what was there got eaten by animals.
Didn't Ryan Machesney indicate that she ran into someone, maybe Nina, and she offered to take some stuff down to the community garden? Maybe
Yeah, I think
I'd have to look.
somebody offered to take some stuff down from community donations, not from the donation plot.
Right. Don't
And
know if that happened.
Yeah, and I think that happened a couple of times, but I don't think there was much. And there's not much. If you look around, nobody has much.
Yeah.
It's been a horrible season.
Although I will say I've looked around too, and sometimes people seem to have forgotten that they had stuff when they left broccoli.
Yes.
It's suddenly
Yes.
going to seed, and I keep thinking,
That's
oh my
true.
God, what a waste.
Yep, there's been a bunch. We all see it. Yeah, I'm looking here, and Ryan has spoken with Caitlin about picking up any of that, but we've got to fix that. Okie dokie, so no reports. There was, well, okay, Karen, we can move on to your donation garden report.
Pollinator.
Pollinator
I'm
garden.
sorry. I said, I'm looking at pollinator and I said donation. Karen, pollinator report, please. Thank you.
Okay. So I did send the email out with the current flurry lumber estimates, and that spruce wood looks like it would be affordable, and it sounds like we have enough money in the budget to just get some wood and get the other 3 beds done and put in.
Cool.
Now you're talking about the raised bed frames, because Ted did lovely
Yeah, for the
donation,
other half.
but I don't know if that's fair to ask him to always be doing that. I have to say that.
No, we have the money at Flurry Lumber. I don't have to do it.
Flurry lumber.
Oh, you can purchase. No, I meant to actually build the raised bed frames.
You know, I can't do the corners like Ted did, but with another person at Flurry, they said they would cut the 8-foot pieces in half, and that would give me the 8-foot pieces for the sides and the 4-foot pieces for the end. And I have a drill, and with another person, we could put them together.
Cool. That's great.
If you get if you get one 4x4 and they cut 12 8-inch pieces, then you would have the corners if you want to do it.
Mhm.
That's what we have for the corners.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot
Uh-huh.
easier.
Okay.
Then you don't have to put screws in the end. It's not as strong.
Uh-huh. Okay. Good to know. Yeah.
And they'll deliver too, right?
Yes, they will.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, I know we're going to get to the jumping worms later, but I was out there watering the plants that I have put in. And this summer, I had put a bunch of wood chips in the aisles inside the pollinator garden. And I saw five, all in one spot, 5 worms, and I poked them and they were jumping. And I picked them up and checked them. After Margie had talked about it recently, I went back and reread the material. The jumping worms, that little contrasting light colored band goes all the way around, whereas in the native worms, it doesn't. It forms just a saddle. These worms had the band going all the way around.
Mhm.
So
We got
I mean, it looks like we have them. Yeah.
We
And
definitely
what
have
it-
them.
and what do
And
they
that
do?
was on top of the wood chip mulch. They weren't in the beds because that's where I poured the bagged dirt. They were right on top of the wood chip that was covering the rows in between the raised beds.
And why are they bad for the garden?
They destroy the structure of the soil.
They're bad
Okay.
for the earth. Their whole forests are getting deforested. There's like land in forest. Google it.
How do you
There's a
con-
lot of information online. I
How do you-
can see it in my backyard here. I'm off of a little piece of forest, and I think the closer you are to a forest, the more you have. And my backyard flower garden is full of them.
how do you control them, or do you?
The only thing you can do, there's a couple of things. I've been doing a lot of research on it. I mean, are we talking about this now? Karen, are you finished?
Well, we kind of,
Yeah,
to
sorry.
me, it sounds like,
Tangent, so,
I think it'd be it seems to me it's a new business item because I think
Okay.
this is the first
Yeah.
I'm hearing of it.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that we gotta
I can
put it
wait.
down.
So is it okay to, right now I have other stuff to finish up, but in November, the weather would still be good, and that's when I could get help and build some beds. So would it be okay in November to order? So I'm not sure how we do it. Do we just say we're with the community garden at Flurry's and ask them about ordering the wood?
Yeah, they can bill the city. They should find us on their account. And if you would get an 8-foot 4x4,
Mhm.
if they deliver, I'll pick it up at the garden and bring it home and cut it into the corner pieces that we would need, and I'll help you build them.
Okay, that would be great, Ted. Yeah,
November sounds like a good time.
yeah, November. I mean, there would be more time to do it
Okay.
with everything else taken care of. Yeah.
And you're getting three raised beds, 3 4x8s?
Yes.
Okay. So one 4x4, 8-foot should be enough for the corners for three beds.
4-inch by 4-inch by 8-foot wood.
Yeah.
I just tell them that.
4x4. Yeah. It's
Okay.
3.5 by 3.5, just like
Right.
the.
Yeah. You know, when I was looking something else up about, I don't know what, race beds, I came across a graphic where somebody had shown wood from lumber from being built years ago and the measurements. And they showed, you know, 2 by 10 by 8. It used to actually be 2 inches by 10 inches by 8 feet. And they showed it. And then after, I don't know how many, 70 years, it shrank down. And then after 70 years, it shrank down again to the point where we're at now, where a 4 by 4 is no longer 4 inches by 4 inches. Just a tidbit of information.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will plan ahead for a time in November. Okay.
Let's thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate that report. And I see that Mark's getting hungry here, so we're toward the end here. So let's
Oh, wow.
just
Guess
make
it's-
sure we.
Oh,
What else?
I have one more thing.
Yeah,
Can
go
I? So at some point, we're going to talk about relaying out the gardens, remeasuring them.
Yeah, not this meeting.
Okay, well, I just want to mention while we're here that we're going to need some markers. I mean, we have to plan ahead. We're going to need some markers to remark the corners. And I have a bunch of old iron pipe. It's probably 100 years old. I'm not sure what it's from.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, the house I grew up in is like more than 200 years old, and my father would have pulled the pipe out of that house. And when I've been cleaning here, I found a bunch of these pipes laid against the back of the garage, and they're just in the way. And I don't know what to do with them. So if you all want them and can cut them into 2-foot pieces, that would be some markers that you could use.
2 foot could be dangerous. It's easy. I mean, I keep walking into 2-foot high branches. I did it today and got a really deep cut. I would suggest a little bit longer so you don't walk into them and get your shins cut up.
Right.
Another thing, and this is Christine, another thing to think about is I'd like to know what those pipes are, like if they are lead pipes or not.
Yeah, I went out there with a magnet to check, and I don't know if all of them are iron, but some of them are iron because the magnet was attracted to them.
Okay.
A great way to test.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I should quickly talk about these jumping worms before Mark has to leave.
Okay, well, let's just quickly before we get to jumping worms and new business, let's make sure that we are doing 2 things. Our next meeting, I think, is scheduled for November 2nd. We might think about the worms for that because I noticed it's also the Day of the Dead. So maybe that's the time to talk.
All Souls Day.
Yes. And then we do want to get a closing date done now. So let's move to that before Mark shifts off.
When do we usually close?
Well, it's usually in November. Frank, do you have a recommendation?
I got it. I'm pulling up the calendar right now. It's usually the end of October. So we're either looking at
Let's move it to November because it's been so warm, and I think Christine told me there's not a frost expected until November.
Sounds good.
Fourth or
let's see.
the fourth?
The 4th is that's first Saturday, correct?
Yeah, if the second is a Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, and that gives us an opportunity to have one more meeting where we can coordinate that, which is the advantage of moving it to November. That's what I thought we did last year, Frank, because I thought
I've got to apologize. I lost my connection again, so
That's okay.
I missed whatever you all just said.
So anyway, when we're looking to the first weekend in November, and I believe we looked at that last year too, because we saw the benefit of having one more, a business meeting before the closing so that we could organize a little bit. So if we were shooting
good.
for November 4th, that gives us November 2nd as a meeting just before then.
Okay.
But that's not enough time to let people know. People don't even check their emails sometimes in 2 days.
Well, they're not, no, hold on.
We would tell everybody
You can
now.
get the notice out well in advance, but not waiting till the next meeting to tell people.
Tell people now, in other words.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're setting it now.
Okay.
If that's fine, but we're probably gonna need the city's gonna cut that water off probably before then.
No, I'll hold off on that, Frank.
Okay, because that's going to depend on having
Yeah, no. We'll have the water cut off later, like we did last year.
Okay.
Okay, I'm glad we got that done. Back to now, there was a volunteer hours report that Deb did. I don't know if people saw it, so thanks go out to her for doing it. I don't know if there's any of the present gardeners have any feedback here. This is that opportunity in the meeting to do so. I don't know whether or not practically prepared has anything to say either there or what?
Yes, Kathy Harrison. So this was a grim year for us. My husband landed in the hospital in the early part of the summer and spent most of the summer in and out. And we're still dealing with some health things. So we didn't lose anything in the garden because it was such a crummy year anyway, but we never got to do any volunteer hours. And I wondered if it would be possible for us to make a donation. I mean, we can just run up to Flurry and put some money in the account, something to make up for the fact that, the year before we pulled 80,000 thistle plants, but this year we literally did, I think Bruce mowed maybe once with his little electric mower, and that was it. So is there another way that we could make up for that? We're really sorry. It was just a terrible year.
Well, two things I'll say. First, about donations. The best way to do that, and you can just when you have an opportunity, you can either mail it to or drop by City Hall to the clerk's office. She'll get it into our account because you really can't do it through Flurry.
Okay.
But you can do it that way. And it's very kind of you even to think in that regard. It'll be terrific. And the second thing is, still we're going to need some help to close down. So circle November 4th in your calendar.
We will definitely do that.
I suspect we'll do either late morning or early afternoon start on that.
We'll probably have 2 different times. We tried to spread it out before. I'm kind of not comfortable with a monetary donation to make up for not being able to do service just because life is rude. It is what it is. It's nothing to hold against you or anything like that. That's a pretty heavy load,
Yeah, we're really low summer.
Yeah, no, I know a couple of people who've been through similar situations this summer. So
just come on November 4th, you'll be good.
Okay.
Also, there's still time to do a lot of garden chores if you're up to it. I'm sure Karen could use some help. We still need to weed even if it's wet. I mean, you just have to be sure to knock all that earth off.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot that you could do. Maybe closing day would be the best, but in my mind, there's stuff that needs to be done. You could still spread wood chips. There's quite a few paths near me, near Mark, that there are a lot of weeds coming up, and they could use weed being
Oh my goodness.
cardboard down and then wood chips on them. So there's still stuff you could do. I mean, I feel like when life happens and it's that intense, I don't know if we should really
Well,
make people continue to.
That's very kind. I appreciate that too.
Well, thank you again for the offer, Kathy. I think we all agree with Frank. It's just certainly not necessary, but always appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are at the new business part, and now I guess that's the jumping words. I don't know whether folks. It's so new to me. This is the first I've heard of this, so I know I'm behind the times on this. But I'm gonna, my inclination. I'd like to go. I want to research. I want to understand a little better, so that when we do discuss it, I think I have a vague, idea of what we're talking about, and make the first thing I think about is whether we should get some jumping fish, just to kind of like let them.
There's an idea.
Again,
Actually, you shouldn't
that's
even
out of
feed them
ignorance.
to your chickens. I was thinking I could feed them to my chickens,
No,
and it's recommended that you not do that.
the thing is,
Goats or whatever.
if you feed them to the chickens ingest the heavy metals, and then they
Yes.
come out in the eggs and the meat.
Yep.
And they go into ours.
Blanking bloody hell.
These things
Oh
are,
my
first
God.
of all, the way you really tell is you pick it up and it wiggles all around. If you pick up a regular earthworm, it just hangs there. This one like wiggles.
Well, they move a little, but not like the
Oh no, there's a lot. I've been dealing with them for 2 years. This is the third year, the third season. And some of them move really fast. Plus, they can drop off part of their body and try to get away. They can be up to 8 inches long. Some of them are really small. They die in the winter. They lay their eggs in the first, I think it's 1 to 4 inches of soil. And now is prime egg laying time. There's a few predators, but many birds and rodents spit them out. Some eat them, but some won't touch them. They are starting to deforest large tracts of forest land. And
What's the solution?
In my backyard, I can see a place where there used to be weeds. There's nothing. There is no overall solution. What you can do in April, you can lay clear plastic over the land, and it should get to be hot enough to kill the eggs.
Okay.
The thing is, you can't do that, everywhere. You
In
can
a
do it in
forest.
the forest, and they just keep coming back. You can mix mustard seed powder in water and pour it over the plot, and it will bring them to the surface, and then you have to pick them out and kill them. They say drop them in alcohol or something.
What birds? Some
birds don't eat them. I don't know what.
Which ones do?
I don't know. And the thing is that the predators that do eat them don't eat them quickly enough to decrease the population. Plus, they're asexual. They don't need a mate to reproduce. And where you find these worms, you don't find regular earthworms, which are called European earthworms. Now, one of the people who is on the Northampton Garden Committee tells me that they've been around for hundreds of years. It's just recently we're seeing them and noticing them in Massachusetts. But if you go online and do some research, it doesn't look like they've been around that long. She says they are, and they're nothing to worry about. What I have noticed is that things still grow. It is harder, and I read this, it's harder to germinate seeds because I guess seeds need more nutrients. And it's easier to get plants started when you use seedlings instead of just planting seeds. I haven't had any problems so far in Easthampton, but when Karen and I were digging out strawberries, which she was going to take, there they were. And it's also, it's under where I had a lot of wood chips. I haven't seen them anywhere else than under the wood chips. So what I read too is that if you use compost from external sources, wood chips leaves should be heat treated. I don't know. Hi, Mark. I don't know how we arrange that, and we need wood chips, and it's a problem because I mean we can't ask a tree service to go and check where they're getting their trees from, you know, where we get the wood chips from. Oh, are there jumping worms there? They're not going to look at that. And I
Well,
mean, go ahead.
Margie, I think it might not be the wood chips themselves. It's the wood chips creating a habitat or an ideal situation for the worms because it's warm, because you know they warm the soil up. So I don't know if I doubt they're coming in with the wood chips, but I could see maybe if the worms are there, that the wood chips are actually kind of facilitating. They're creating a habitat for them, maybe.
Yes, that's true. But what I read is that the wood chips can have the eggs in them because they lay their eggs close to the top of the soil and they get mixed in with leaves and wood chips. And I see in my leaves too, in my Northampton garden, when I rake and my backyard, when I rake the leaves away, it definitely creates habitat because I see bunches of them there. And I've been really careful. I don't wear the same shoes. I don't use the same gloves. I wash my tools in between gardens. I've been following all the recommendations. So I'm just praying that it wasn't me who brought him. But Karen, if you found him up there, I feel like it's got to be the wood chips.
I think that's with all due respect, Margie, I just think that's a pretty big jump, man. There's 40 something gardeners, and
some people don't even know about it though. And
I understand that precisely. That's exactly why. So they come in. I mean, because I will send you all an article that was in the Atlantic 2 years ago about just worms in general and the jumping worms. Because you're right, Margie. I mean, up in where they do lumbering, up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, they basically sanitize everything that goes in or out of the forest, all the treads on all the tires, everything, because they don't want to spread the worms, and the eggs from them. But I think to jump to the conclusion that it's the wood chips.
I'm not concluding that. I'm just wondering. I'm thinking it seems evident. And another way you can tell, it's like where it's called worm castings. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but wherever there's
that's their poop, basically.
It's what? The poop.
That's worm castings. That's their poop. Yeah.
And it looks like the earth looks different. It looks like they call it coffee grounds, but to me it looks more like hamburger meat. It's a different consistency.
The coffee grounds thing never worked. It's more like what you said, because I know what it looks like. Well, I mean, worm castings in general look like that. So,
well, I've had worms in my backyard, and I never saw anything that obvious as I do now at the base of plants. And with the rain and the jumping worms, the soil gets so loose. A lot of my flowers, my big 6 and 7 foot dahlias, start to fall over. And I have to pack the soil in, and then they come up. And there they are.
You know what it is, Margie? It's not coffee grounds. Son of a biscuit eater. Okay. You back? Am I back?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay. It's not the coffee grounds because just looking at all the different photos of this thing, because I read about them a lot too. So it's more like what instant coffee looks like before you put it in the water. You know, it's bigger.
It's clumpier.
But coffee grounds are, yeah. Well, I have pretty fine coffee, so I don't
I
do.
think it depends what instant coffee you use because some of it's like powder.
They do it down in like in Brazil. There's still people that love Nescafe, and I'm like,
It's like India too. So
I mean, it
anyway,
has places, but no, I hear you.
what do we do? Do we do anything? Do we just let people know to be on the lookout and pull them out if they see them?
I think that's more of it. Is like, if to let people know what they look like, and you again don't chop them in half because then you'll have two, and you just have to get rid of them. And throwing them to a bird doesn't help because, like you said, all the birds don't eat them. Yeah, this would be something to look. I will. I just within the next couple of days I'll pull up this article from the Atlantic. It's long because none of their articles are short.
I have a good article too. I can
And
send it.
it's an awesome article on just because mainly all the worms in the United States are invasive, but this one in particular is really problematic. And I don't know what we would do to get. I mean, it's just gonna be a matter of time before they get to us.
I think so too.
And they already are. So
I think what you have to do is just keep feeding the soil more and more. Just keep feeding it more than usual.
Okay. There are
All right.
some people have thought that
We hear you, Karen.
okay. Some people have thought that crushed shells deter them because they don't like the sharp edges.
oh, like diatomaceous earth.
Well, diatomaceous earth, but that's expensive. But there's crushed shell that people feed to their chickens.
Oyster shell.
Yeah. So I was at the Easthampton feed store the other day, and I asked him what he had heard about it, and he said he didn't have crushed shell, but he was looking into maybe getting a source for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. But you heard that from me, Karen, and I heard it from someone in the Northampton garden. It's not from any official source. It's just another gardener who she put a lot of that in her plot a couple of years ago, and she said it seemed to diminish the population.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had heard, people have been mentioning it to the guy at the feed store, and he had been thinking about, I mean, even before I brought it up, he had been thinking about, is there a source? There's a big crushed shell and there's a more fine crushed shell. And so he said he was looking into that.
I wonder even if crushed eggshells would work.
Eggshells?
You'd have to have a lot of eggs.
I use eggshells, and they just kind of, with all this rain, they just kind of get sunken in the earth and scattered, and doesn't seem to do that much for the worms anyway. Maybe I think it adds calcium to the soil, which is
absolutely does.
Yeah, and there's also mulching with coir, COIR. It's supposed to, the worms don't like that. They like leaves and wood chips, but they don't like the coconut fiber. And I've been doing some research on that. The only thing with that is that it retains more moisture.
It holds moisture, which is
which we don't need.
Yeah, we don't need that.
No. Yeah. Unless it's a very, very dry summer, but that doesn't look like it's on the agenda for a while with all these melting glaciers.
All right. Well, I gotta jump off here soon. So
Yeah. I think
Should-
we've actually concluded the agenda. Although the only thing, Karen, I'm just going to mention to the group as a whole, and as you know, I copied you and Sarah on this. There may be that I can confirm that the city does not have a contract with any nursery.
Okay,
However, there may be possibilities that we can look at, and we can discuss further next time or whatever, but I just wanted to
Okay.
report that.
okay, yeah, thank you, Stephen.
No, my pleasure.
I also have numbers for 2 tree services, Larkin and Orzel. Should I call them and get some wood chips? Because it
Yeah.
looks like we
Yes.
need them no
Yes.
matter if there's worms in them or not.
yeah,
be
we
great.
need chips.
Yeah, and they're probably more than happy to upload them. Thank you so much, Margie, for doing that.
No problem.
Okay, so we do have a meeting. We decided it's of course on the first Thursday, which is November 2nd, 7 p.m. And we do have the closing of the garden on the 4th. That's
Oh, my
Saturday the
goodness.
4th. Should we say that some folks will be there around 10 to 11 and other folks will pick it up for an afternoon one, like 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or something like that?
Mhm.
By then, I think the clocks change, so
Okay,
Clocks.
be
change
aware.
that-
Be aware.
think.
It
I
shouldn't
don't
be too
think,
late.
I don't know if
too
we're
late in the
changing
day.
clocks this year, Stephen.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
This is how far back, do we not have perpetual?
not
Daylight
they I thought they finally made it. The Congress decided not to do that. Well, but don't hold me to that.
Are you?
No,
are
you may be right. So anyhow, let's just say for those, that we could start off as early as 10.
okay,
My
Okay.
my calendar says daylight savings ends on November 5th.
Oh, come on, man.
Okay, so that's Sunday. Okay, great. So we still have that one day. That's good. Okay, excellent.
I hate that.
Yeah,
I want
so
more light when I get
I
home.
do
from
too.
work.
It's a very sad day.
I really want more light when I get home from work. I don't care if it's dark in the morning.
Me too.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I mo,
Frank
I
and Mark
second it.
and Margie seconds.
No, that's Karen.
It is 8:19. There's a motion. All in favor of adjourning, say aye again.
Bye.
Any opposition?
Aye, not yay.
I hear none in opposition, so we are adjourned.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.